So Jeannie, would you like to introduce our guest today?
I do. I'm so excited. We just touched on some things right before we got live. We have Nathalie Berthe with Cybersecurity for Humans. And it was really interesting because we were talking about big general cybersecurity and things that people think that they need. Nathalie is going to enlighten us on what we actually need. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Her company, they take a people-centered approach to cybersecurity. They teach people what they need to know to help mitigate the 95% of cyber breaches that are caused by humans and their bad habits. We do this in a way that's fun, interesting, and accessible so that regular humans can understand and apply what they learn, which I can honestly tell you is so valuable and so needed because it's a big black hole for some people. So welcome, Nathalie. Lovely to have you.
Yay. So when people think of cybersecurity, they think it's really complex and expensive. And to be fair, right, this is what the industry, like everyone that's been worried about it has always been worried about the back end. And so we're like, oh, we've got our McAfee or our Norton utilities or whatever running on our computers. And that's all we needed to do, past tense, right? That's all we needed to do. And so when we think of cyber, it's always like separate from us, right? We've got cyber warfare, we've got cyber this, we've got cyber that, and cyber breaches. It's all talking about the backside technology side of it. But the reality is that every study, every year that I have looked at for the last, I don't even know how many years that I've been studying and working in this, has mentioned that the number one problem is the human element. We call it the human factor, the human element, the human errors, right? It is, and by number one, that's where the 95% comes from. It is literally the number one cause. 95% of all breaches can be literally traced back to something that somebody did or did not do that they shouldn't or should have done.
So you mean my password should not be password 1234?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. Like we laugh, right?
So tell us, what is the secret to having a very solid password?
Well, the secret is that you don't create them. You don't create them. Every password needs to be unique and long. And conventional wisdom says at least, I mean, some will say as few as 8 characters, or 12 characters, but really it should be 16 or more characters. A random combination of lower and uppercase letters, numbers, and characters. And honestly, one of the most frustrating thing is they're like, use a character, and you're using a character, and they're like, not that character. So you use another character, and they're like, nope, not that character either. I was like, could you just tell me the characters I need to use, right? And it's hard, right? Because people want to remember their passwords so that they don't have to think about them. This is why I recommend that you use a password manager, which literally manages all of your passwords. I have, between my kids and me, I probably have, I don't know, 300 plus accounts. Like it's a gazillion accounts, so many. And I don't know any of those passwords because we always use the password generator and then it gets stored in LastPass. And so I don't have to think about it.
That's what we use too. We recommend it to all of our clients.
And we should probably be talking about, not only is this really good for your business, but it saves you time because you don't have to type anything. It pops in. So that's the trick, is you don't create them at all. And don't use the browser password manager like Chrome and whatever that saves it. I would do a third party because that's really how you end up. You do need several layers, right, of separation just to make it a little bit more complicated for the bad guys. Because what I hear from hackers is that if you can stay, unless they really want to come after you for some reason, which that's a different issue, right? That's personal, but I'll explain what the problem would be. If, for example, you use Chrome, which most of us do, and you have a Gmail account, which most of us do. And a lot of us keep our Gmail accounts open because we're constantly going back to them throughout the day. Because your Gmail isn't just your Gmail opens up everything with Google. And so what ends up happening is if you start saving things, there's a dual thing going on here. If you start saving things into your browser, right, not only you might be saving them in the wrong account. So now you've got separate accounts and I'm like, oh God, which one did I put in my password for something? But because you have your email open, essentially your browser is open. And so that now, if somebody wants to, because some of the malware that's coming down and the ransomware that's coming, was mostly malware that's coming down, is figuring out how to hide in the browser. And so even though Google has an actual team that goes out and looks for vulnerabilities in different companies in different places, literally that's all they do. It's Google Zero, they call it, or something similar to that. And, there's still problems. So not that long ago, actually maybe 2 months ago, they just announced that North Korea had developed a malware that was targeted to people who studied North Korea, nuclear disarmament, and anything that might be of interest to them. And then they would send really official looking documents and somebody would click it open and it would go and hide in the browser. But the way that it was set up is that because it was coming from the inside, scans would miss it, because scans are looking out. They're not looking in. And so it hid in a special way. And so people were having their emails hacked. And if North Korea is figuring out how to do that, specifically targeting people that they want to do, who's to say that somebody else isn't going to figure out the same thing, to just do it generally, right? So we just need to be really careful what we put and where. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What would you say would be the second thing that people need to do? So safe passwords, use LastPass.
Multi-factor authentication.
Ah.
Absolutely. Now, I'm a fan of LastPass. We were all talking about LastPass ahead of time. I found out, I had a great conversation with somebody who does the tech side of this stuff. But the thing that we want to do is as many accounts as we can do two-factor or multi-factor authentication as we possibly can. We don't want to use the LastPass authenticator. The reason is you don't want somebody to have access to everything, right? So this is what I was talking about, multiple layers, right? So you use LastPass and then you use multi-factor authentication. There's a whole bunch of ones that are free. So instead of going to your SMS, your text messages, it goes to this account. And oftentimes what they do is they'll change the code every 60 or 30 seconds, right? So it's really hard to kind of get in there. But MFA will take care of about 90% of the problems that if somebody is trying to break into your account. And then there's lots of little things that we can do, but phishing is a really big thing. Like, be careful who you friend online and who you receive emails. I always tell people, if you're a business person, you need at least 4 emails, one for your personal stuff, one for your personal junk. And that would be everything from paying bills, newsletters, and all that other stuff. Sometimes you split it up. And then one for business and one for business junk, right?
So for some reason, in one of my accounts, I all of a sudden just started getting a ton of like random kind of junk emails about EFTs and crypto and stocks. And I would unsubscribe, like knowing I hadn't subscribed, I unsubscribed. So today I just started blocking them. Is that a good thing to do?
Yeah, you can. The problem is that if you actually go through and see they're from a whole bunch of different accounts. So I would keep unsubscribing and blocking them, reporting them to Gmail or whomever you've got, because there's actually now a way that you can do that. If you block it, it'll automatically get reported. And so they'll start filtering out on the other end. The problem is those guys just they make, because it's all done by robots now, right? So they're making up accounts as fast as you can block them. But if you don't respond for a certain amount of time, eventually they'll just realize that you're not exciting for them. But I have my junk email address. The problem is that once it gets onto a breached account, it's a legitimate email. And the best way to check on this is, people always get a real kick out of this, is you go to a website called Have I Been Pawned? It's HAVEP, have I, the letter I. Pawned is PWNED.com. And if you go into that and you put in your email address, you will see all of the breaches your email address has been involved in.
So what if your work email ends up getting in tons of breaches?
That's a tough one. That's one of the reasons that I recommend that people have multiple work email addresses, even if you don't want to pay the $6 or $8 or whatever, $10 a month for each one. So depending on your options, you can just use a regular Gmail account. That would work as well. And then you just have to be really patient and just clean it and make sure, like, at that point you unsubscribe with everything. The other thing that people don't think about is that we should not be using our primary email address for most of our social media. It's easier to log in, but social media, the problem with a lot of social media is it's really easy to hack. Well, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok get a lot of accounts get hacked because they have third-party apps that are attached. And what the third-party apps do is like, hey, and some of them are just like fun games and stuff like that. But some of them feel like they're supposed to be important and they're not. And so like the real cleanup comes in, remove all those third-party apps, right? Change that email address to just a Gmail account, because you're not checking that account and then you can put in and then you put it in LastPass, right? That says, hey, all my social media are on this account, right? That's the secure notes for yourself to remember which one has what. And that's how you end up starting to clean that out. It's a process. It's sort of like going through your junk room of 20 years of stuff in the garage, right? It's time to start cleaning this shit out.
Yeah. How often do you recommend changing passwords for your email and social media?
You don't need to. It's a fallacy that you need to change them regularly. LastPass recommends about once a year.
Okay.
That seems fair, but I don't always change it once a year. But there are a couple times you really, really want to change it. As soon as you find out that your email address has been involved in a breach, with that account should get the email password changed right away. For example, there are two good examples. Like DoorDash got hit this summer. Twitter, DoorDash, they were all getting hit this summer. And even though they didn't get away with a whole lot of stuff, I would say you change the password just in case, right? The the person who broke into Uber, I don't know if you heard about that breach. The guy, breached Uber, and they literally managed to get into the hard-coded section of Uber. They could have taken over everything. There hasn't been an announcement that they actually stole anything, and considering that they broke in, figure out how to get through everything, and then announce themselves on the employee Slack channel that they had broken in. And what Uber did is, because it was hard-coded into their system, was essentially when this person broke in, it was like they had the master key to every door of every building that Uber had.
Wow.
It was major for that reason, because there should have been several firewalls. My favorite is this person, the hacker, actually also managed to take control of HackerOne, which is what what a lot of these large companies will do is they'll pay money for they call bounty money for when somebody finds a breach or a problem. And so it says, hey, we didn't know about this vulnerability, we're going to pay you for it. And some of these pay thousands and thousands of dollars, right? Because these are breaches that could potentially cost the company millions. Yeah, he took that one over too. Like he literally had everything.
Oh, okay.
Wow. So is there a central place that lists all the breaches that happen, or right now the best thing to do, just check your email address?
Well, that website has a lot of stuff that's going on. There are some websites that are listing them. The problem is that there are so many, and some of them are just small. Like if you've had somebody ransomware your computer, right? And let's say that you've had 1,000 clients over the last 10 years. That's technically a breach. They've breached your system, right? Depending on where your clients are, you are required by law to inform them that your computer has been breached. The truth of the matter is that most small businesses would never do that because they know that their reputation is at stake. Do I really want to be doing business with somebody? Do you want to do business with me if I have to tell you that my accounts have been hacked, right? Even if it's my bank accounts, right? If you can't even manage to keep your bank accounts safe, then what about the rest of it? There's just a huge stigma on that. 55% of Americans said that they would not do business with a company that has been breached. Although I doubt that's actually true, but it's what they say. So
are Macs or PCs different in the way that they security wise?
So that's a really interesting question, because everybody assumes that being on a Mac is so much safer. And when you're talking about viruses, it really was for a very long time, because viruses, they like to track in through whatever you're doing and start hitting up the operating system. And there were not as many Macs as there are PCs. So everybody, just like the hackers, if you really want to be a big slash, you're going to go for the biggest opportunity to make something a hot mess. And then Linux is another one that's also had problems. But the fact of the matter is that everything now has problems. That maybe still it's outweighed towards PC. The bigger issue today, like, we still all have to worry about viruses, but that's not the number one issue. The number one issue is actually phishing. And that doesn't matter whether you have a PC or an Apple, because you have invited them in.
Right, how does that work? What is phishing?
Phishing is when somebody sends something, I send you something, you didn't ask for it, and it's a fake link. It's like you click open either an attachment, or there's a link that sends you to a page that you think is legitimate but isn't. So say, for example, you have an account with Bank of America, and Bank of America says, hey, you've been breached, you need to go and change your information, here's the link. And you click on the link and you go to the page, and the page looks totally different. I mean, it's the exact same thing as you would go in. So you go in and you start changing information. What you didn't notice is that it says Bank on America, because you quickly looked at that and it looked almost exactly the same, right? And so that's what the phishing does. It starts collecting information or stealing things. And sometimes it adds ransomware to your computer, which then freezes it all up and says, hey, you have to pay X amount of dollars in cryptocurrency before, we release it. Although apparently the ransomware people out there have gotten very polite, and they're now giving people time to collect the money, because the ransoms are much, much bigger than they used to be. Right? They're like, we won't even tell anybody that we did this if you just give us the money. The problem is that everybody is getting involved, and this is what people don't understand. But everybody's involved. Governments, organized crime, hugely involved. It is way easier, way cheaper, and much more profitable to do ransomware and cyber attacks than it is trying to get drugs over country lines and sex trafficking, right? That's still happening because there's a demand, but it's way easier to hire a bunch of unemployed hackers to just go start stealing money from people. Why not, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, so everybody's involved in it, and it's a really, really big thing. It's like, don't even take it personally. They're just coming after you because you're a person.
Yeah. Right. So I guess my next question was about credit cards. So
Yes.
whether it is, if you're a business owner and you're getting someone to buy something and you're like, oh, well, give me your credit card number, you're going to repeat that number. And what happens is, if you have Alexa, or what up your phone's listening, or even you give your credit card information to someone over the phone. So what kind of security issues does that entail?
Well, you mentioned them all. Like, those are some of the big things. And the theory is that, well, it's Alexa, that Alexa's not going to be, Alexa's listening to everything, right? I am not a fan of the Alexa Echo kind of thing. I can press the extra button on my computer if I really want, on my phone, if I really want to listen to music. I think it's Stripe made the announcement that they are going to up the charges for, they used to do this, but then they stopped for a while, like all of them. If I manually enter a credit card versus if you put in the credit card. So for example, when I work with people, I don't take their credit cards, and everyone's like, and every coach is like, you should take the credit card to make sure that you're getting paid.
Right.
No, I will not do that. I'm going to send them an invoice, and I'm happy to stay on the, my invoice is ready to go while I'm on the phone with them, and I will send it to them, and I will wait the extra 5 minutes for them to go, oh yeah, I got it, paying it right now, here it is.
Yeah.
But I haven't had a problem with anybody doing that. But then this way, I never touch their credit card.
Exactly.
I never see it.
Yeah.
A lot of companies will now offer one-time credit card numbers. I know Amex does it. I'm pretty sure Citibank does it. Like, everybody wants to be able to do that, because if there is fraud, they're the ones who are out. And it is a multi-billion-dollar problem for them.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We send an invoice, and I know that everybody out there is like, while you've got them on the phone and you solve their problem and they're excited, take their credit card information. Well, my background is mortgage, and I'm like, do you know how much liability you have? I mean, if they're hacked, they can blame it on you. Well, I used my credit card since I gave it to you, and now all of a sudden I've got all these expenses. Or again, all these devices in people's homes are listening. And so I just feel like it's such a big risk. So everything for us is either paid through a PayPal invoice or a Stripe invoice, because we don't even want to be able to see their credit card information in the back end of our software. We want that layer of protection for them and for us.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. It's an interesting problem, but it's a problem nonetheless.
Yeah.
And we just have to, like, if someone's just not going to pay you, they're just not going to pay you. You just not kind of need to suck it up. But the fact of the matter is, most of us are not certified as PCI compliant. Right? So we should actually have no physical records of their credit card numbers.
Yeah.
The whole Alexa thing and Echo breaks my heart, because I love the idea of it and the technology behind it, and just asking Alexa to play this or turn that up or turn that down.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. And I think about all the security systems that people are putting into their houses. I don't think any of that would make me feel safer. I think it would make me feel less safe. Like the doorbell things, and all that's wireless. You have issues with all of that.
Well, there's several problems with that. Have you heard of the term IoT, or Internet of Things?
I've not.
Okay. So this is one of the things I really like to do, and why I like to talk about cybersecurity, is because IoT sounds really complicated. And Internet of Things, it was like, I thought it was a lot more complicated than it was. It turns out it's simply everything that's connected to the internet that's not your computer. Right. So that could be your coffee maker, that you press a button that says, hey, you're ready. I'm ready. I'm upstairs in my bedroom, start making my coffee so it's done by the time I come downstairs, to your alarm system, to Echo and Alexa and all of those things. That's all called the Internet of Things. And what happens is that most people do not change the factory settings for the Internet of Things, which is what makes them vulnerable. And so they don't even change the factory settings on their routers. They're like, well, my router says it's got this really great complicated password. Yeah, but anybody who comes by can take a picture of that. And now you've got someone who can use your router as they want to. Or they'll put in their thing, hey, Smith Home. No, you don't put Smith Home on the name of the router. One of the things we want to do is that when we have people coming to our home and they're like, hey, can I use your Wi-Fi? Always set up a separate network. If you've got kids, strongly recommend that you set up the separate network and they use the guest one, especially if you're working from home.
So I heard the phishing things happens more on my cell phone than it does in my email.
That's new. That's actually called smishing.
Smishing. Oh,
smishing. There's phishing, smishing, and phishing. Phishing is PHISHING. And so there's catfishing and phishing, and there's whale phishing and spear phishing. Spear phishing is someone's going after someone specifically. Whale phishing is trying to get somebody who's like really rich or super influential for some reason. The smishing is the newest, latest craze. I get it all the time. I get a ton from Amazon. That, of course, if you look at it, it's not actually from Amazon. And they call it smishing because it comes through SMS. Yes, that's new. That's a new thing.
Making sure that you're getting rid of emails that you don't think are secure, changing your email addresses, using LastPass. These are all things that, like you said, it's a process, but if you start now, each time you implement something, you're just making yourself safer and safer and safer from having issues. And I think as a business owner, we have so much to worry about. It's nice to know that you're doing all that you can do to keep everything else.
Well, and if you've got good security, that's actually a competitive advantage. I was talking to a friend of mine who owns a large accounting firm here in DC. And he was like, most of my peers don't do this.
So is there an easy way, I'm hoping, to go into Chrome and just go into passwords and just delete everything?
When you go into you hit the three little dots on the side, and I think it's going on to settings. Yeah, you go to help. And then you go to privacy and security, and that's going to be a list to clear your browsing security. And I think one of these has the website, the passwords in it. And then you can see it, and you can see the ones and make sure they have it in LastPass. And then you can ask Google to stop asking you, Chrome to stop asking you to save it. You should do it on your phone too.
Excellent. Great.
Wow. This has been amazing. I am so excited that you are our guest here. And I'm hoping you'll come back and have this conversation with us again next year, because I feel like it's so important. It's something that we constantly need to always be conscious of, and then always look to improve on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is only going to get worse. And people just don't think it's that big of a deal. And I actually was kind of joking, but it wasn't really. Like, How much money have you lost because you're spending time having to fix it over, because people are not going to do business with you? Maybe there's business that you can't do, so now you have to refund people. You
Right.
start adding all that stuff up, and all of a sudden, even my business that's not making a lot of money is worth a hell of a lot more to me than what it is for other people, right? And what's so tragic about all of this is that when my stuff, like, it takes hours and hours and hours of time for me to clean up a mess, and somebody is picking it up for free or for pennies on the dollar on the black market,
Right.
and you're sort of going on the dark web and going, damn, like, I'm only worth like 3 cents. It's so tragic. So
Well, we so appreciate you sharing all these amazing tips and ideas and smart ways to just stay safe online. And like she said, do it now, because you're going to be a lot safer, in the upcoming months and years when things change a little bit. So special thanks to Nathalie.